Let the bees into your brain. They make the mind, honey.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you handwrite anything?
Very, very rarely. I have a notepad.
Yeah.
Which I don't really carry around anymore.
I was going to say, how often do you use that versus the notes thing on your phone?
It's always the notes thing on the phone or on the laptop.
Yeah.
That's the main thing now. Which is fine, I guess, until, the apocalypse comes and there's no electricity left anymore.
Yeah.
But then we'll go back to spoken word anyway, so...
I find it interesting to think about, like, whether or not the mechanics of the thing you're using to create affect how you write. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I write differently on paper than I do on just a blank Microsoft Word. Sometimes I've used screenwriting apps before too, and like I write differently there too. There's so many little pieces of the technology that can steer the way you think and work that I think it really, especially over the course of whatever, an hour of writing or something, it can really have an impact. I don't know how to control that. I just know that it's true. But it's always interesting to kind of hear, like, that you have the notebook. There's probably a couple pages filled in at least, right?
Yeah, I think because I've had it for quite a long time, there is, it's probably about a quarter full or something like that. But then it's weird how it'll go from, pages with sort of notes written on them and sort of abstract little bits to it then becomes weirdly practical towards the end. So it's like a list of things that I was supposed to tell the vet when I took my dog in.
Yeah, yeah.
So it starts off as being like, I need to anchor my thoughts, and then it's like, I need to remember the practical things that are going on in my life.
My old notebooks are like half Chinese food orders.
Yeah. But that's it. It's the things you've got to remember, right? And then real life intrudes on the fantasy realm every now and then.
Zachary Little.
What's your problem?
Well, this is a totally different question. Well, first of all, I don't understand why nonfiction would be untrue. Fiction means not true, so not the opposite, the inverse of...
As a child, no, I'm not Jamie with two kids. As a child in school, fiction sounded like, fact.
Oh, I see.
And then nonfiction.
Very close to
I see what
faction.
you're saying.
That's
so
why
you just misunderstood.
And so every time nonfiction, still to this day, I think is false because it has the word "no" in it.
Right.
Political journalism sure is stupid, right? I know this is coming out a couple weeks from now, but we're in the midst of all the phony outrage about Hillary Clinton calling Trump's supporters a basket of deplorables. And it's like, are you kidding me with this shit? Donald Trump's been walking around for literal years saying Obama's a terrorist and Mexicans are rapists and somebody should shoot Hillary Clinton, and we're supposed to bat a rat's fucking eye at a weird $26 phrase like basket of deplorables? How do you even pretend this counts as anything? If you tried to pitch that insult to Oscar Wilde, he'd be like, that's a little arch. How dumb do political journalists think we are? The one thing that Trump has done right in this campaign is publicly shame them at every opportunity. Even though he's too stupid to realize that they're giving him the world's freest and comfiest ride. That silver spoon prick has always flown first class, so I guess he can't tell the difference. Anyway, what I'm saying is, when President Trump throws all the journalists into a CIA black site, we can take some comfort in the fact that they deserve it, okay? I know these people. I have been among them. They're a bunch of rich, smug 26-year-olds. Fuck them. We don't need them. And as for anybody who references this basket of deplorables remark in the future, which, by the way, it sounds like some kind of like claymation Wallace and Gromit in the basket of deplorables. That's what I think of when I hear that. But anyway, plenty of our relatives on Facebook will bring this up, okay? And if they do, they are fucking rubes who got duped into being offended. Because, first of all, it's true. When Hillary Clinton complains about Trump supporters, she's literally talking about David fucking Duke. She's not talking about you and your friend Sal, who runs a house of pizza on South Main Street. And I can say that with authority because, second of all, I am pretty sure Hillary Clinton doesn't think about Trump voters or, like, voters in general at all. When she says supporters, she means elite backers, and I'm fairly sure that's how Clinton thinks elections are decided, which isn't the worst thing in the world. That phrase has taken on new meaning this year because we know now what the actual worst thing in the world is, so we can decide pretty definitively which other things are not the worst thing. For all the nonsense that journalists are trying to cloud our minds and drive our page views with, this is actually a pretty clarifying election. There is a right choice and an insane choice, and a bunch of other inconsequential opinions about Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. And previous elections are now thrown into a much grayer and more forgivable light. You know, your parents voted for Mitt Romney, but that's okay. He probably would have been fine. If your parents vote for Trump, though, you should stop speaking to them immediately. Thanks to the empirical reality of this election, I can say a lot of stuff with authority. If your dad votes for Donald Trump, he's a fucking idiot. If your mom votes for Donald Trump, she's a racist. Your mom's racist. I'm sorry. Welcome to the last podcast. I'm your host, Zach Little.
But no, I think that's an interesting thing about, like, you know, how does the tools that you use, how does that affect the art? You know, I think that's interesting because I've never really thought about that in terms of writing, because I guess I've always it's kind of always been the same, I guess.
My attention was brought to it because in college I used to write my essays out by hand, and to a man, my professors were like so charmed and freaked out by that. They saw me with this, you know, yellow legal pad, and they were like, "Oh my god, do you write out the first drafts of your essays by hand?" And I said, "Yes." And they like couldn't believe it. And I swear, like, that alone was worth a couple points on my GPA, you know? Because I think the things that I was saying seemed more considered to them because I wrote it out by hand. And I mean, maybe it was, not I think as much as they thought. But, because, you know, you can't write as fast as you can type. Almost nobody can, unless you know shorthand and you're like a secretary from the 50s. Then you can. But the rest of us can't. So, it seems like and maybe you are, you're writing slowly, you're considering what you're saying. The symptom for me is if I'm writing by hand, I already know what's going to be on the third page ahead of what I'm writing, and I'm just like trying to catch up, you know, and like getting like carpal tunnel syndrome. But that's what I noticed when college professors made a big deal out of my handwritten essays. I was like, oh, there is a difference. Even if it's mostly just a perceived difference, that's all that really matters anyway. So, all right, one thing I wanted to ask you about, to kind of shift topics, was just the concept of storytelling.
Okay.
Like, as a genre.
Uh-huh.
Just as a first question, how important is the, like, objective truth in storytelling?
I think it all depends on what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
I use storytelling as a means to get to know people and meeting people. So when I do things like VidCon and other YouTube events, and even some stuff in DC, I do story circles where we all sit in a circle and all tell a story on the same theme. So it's not performative. It's just a icebreaker way to get to know people, like you would in a college dorm, I guess. But I wanted to do that kind of same thing for YouTube, but then, you know, I realized that for the show to be truly effective, it had to be good storytelling. So then I would start consulting people on how to tell a good story, and I took enough workshops, and I've done that publicly enough to kind of know those things. But for it to be good, you kind of had to sway, like you had to focus on a particular thing and kind of bring out the heart of a particular topic or a particular moment of action when it may not even be truthful.
Well, I always felt like, because what you're saying, like the more you sort of massage the story into being a good story, the less true it's going to become. Mm-hmm. But I think around the first time that I became aware of storytelling as a thing, outside of like watching a documentary about Spalding Gray, was like the Mike Daisey thing, like when he got in all kinds of trouble.
God.
And
God.
The weird thing about the Mike Daisey thing was that it seemed like it was a very hybrid use of storytelling, because it sort of pretended to be like groundbreaking journalism, but was actually just storytelling. And he almost had a very convenient excuse baked right into it if he ever got caught, which was that it's just storytelling. And yes, if I had written this piece for The New Yorker, they would have fact-checked the shit out of me or whatever, but I didn't. It's just a stage performance or whatever. And if you accidentally thought I was telling the truth about factory conditions in China or whatever, then you misunderstood the genre or something. But I feel like more like he unfairly co-opted storytelling to like, pull off a heist. I don't know.
Oh gosh, the Mike Daisey incident was a very interesting time for me, because I was starting to embrace the storytelling genre in general. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting as a person of the theater world, because it was polarizing. A lot of people believed that he should have had like a disclaimer or something in the program or something like that it was just a performative thing. But a lot of people in the theater community really supported him for really just wanting to tell compelling theater, Mm-hmm. And even now, like, he's embraced a lot more than I would think that he would be. Mm-hmm. He made me a little upset back then, which was like 4 years ago, by the way. But he's still making things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a production of The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, like in Portsmouth, like a year or so ago. Like somebody else was doing it, which I thought was very strange.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even an aspect of storytelling, like the idea of somebody like kind of covering, like cover songs.
Well, it's like I mean, if you think about it as not like a storytelling event, but as a one-man show. Yeah. Like David Sedaris' The Santaland Diaries is actually turned into a play, like a one-man play. Mm-hmm. And that's done all over the theater circuit, the community theaters around the country, because it's a one-man show and it's a Christmas show. So it's cheap and it brings a lot of audiences in.
I feel like so much of the world of storytelling, I feel like, hangs on to that blurry border all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's interesting to me about it, but also what sort of repels me from it, because it's almost like this medium where you have to really be in it, in the movement, to understand it like at all, because the issue and the reason that theater types defended Mike Daisey and other people didn't was because nobody else could understand, like, why would you even ever write a show about Steve Jobs that's like it's real but it's not real? Why wouldn't it be about a guy named Steve Blobs? And why wouldn't it be, like, what merit does putting this sheen of truth over a made-up story, but where he did actually travel to China? Like, why like research and don't research? Why tell the truth and don't tell the truth?
I mean, I remember him saying that he truly believed that was a thing that was happening.
Right. He did say that for a while.
and then there was I think it was like, he thought of himself as a catalyst for other people to do research. Mm-hmm. To kind of inspire people to, like, find the answers themselves. Maybe. But that seems like a really it's shady way of doing it.
It seems like an excuse that was made up on the fly, an explanation that was made up on the fly, and I feel like that's something that's actually true of a lot of the like fine art world. You know, a lot of the time the explanation is made up sort of on the fly, and maybe that's supposed to be part of it. Maybe that's part of the art. You know, like the art of bullshitting your way through the second half after you make the thing is part of the performance or whatever. But it's just, you know, it's like Banksy and Exit to the Gift Shop or whatever, when people were like, is it real? Is it fake? I was like, who gives a fuck? Like, it doesn't, what difference does it make if it's real or fake? If the point was to create something where whether it's real or fake is the question, that's a boring question. Like, and I have no interest in investigating, because nothing changes in my life whether it was true or not. It was like, oh, you made it up or you didn't. Okay. And I don't know. I guess I don't understand. There's like tiers of art, you know? And there's like there's the fancy art world that you like have to go to school for to like sort of get entrance to certain aspects of, you know? And so like for me, the thing that I'll never understand is fucking video installations, because they're garbage. They're all so bad. And I've been to museums and I've stood there looking at this projection of a screen, and I'm like, the only way this is good is that you're a tremendous bullshit artist and you can talk, but you don't, you know what I mean? You don't know anything. The idea that you're expressing is very simple. It could be expressed in a sentence, walking down the street, on your way to get a cup of coffee. It is not profound. It is so rarely profound.
And that's so interesting to me.
It's usually shot on garbage cameras, you know?
Yeah.
And like with no art, no passion, you know? But it's got this whatever, it's got a pedigree. So put it up on the wall at the fucking ICA in Boston.
I feel that in many ways, but I also, like, as I like grew in theater land world, I did a lot of video for theaters that led me to doing projection design for shows. And so I would go to a lot of video installations for not inspiration, but to see what's in that world. And I actually got more out of video installations than like Canvas, really.
I've probably gotten a lot out of video installations too, but it is almost like you're not really going there for inspiration. You're going there for something else. You're going there so that your brain will fix what you're seeing. I think that the thing that you were talking about, the doing kind of like video background for theater and that sort of thing, that's like the workman-like cool version of that world. And my wife's cousin, his boyfriend Gabe, he does video projection stuff. He like spends a lot of time on like cruise ships doing like the video for like the productions there, but also
makes so much money.
Yeah, he did SNL for Prince. He did Prince's backdrop, and I said, like, that is the coolest hybrid, the coolest two different things you could be doing. Is doing a video background for SNL for Prince. Yeah. It's crazy. So that's different, and I'm all for that. But I'm just talking about, like, a video where a guy who's naked except for bunny ears is running around in a field, and it's slow motion, but it wasn't shot at a high enough frame rate, so it's that every other frame slow motion thing, and that's all it is, and it's a loop, and a recording of a lullaby that they pretended to remember from a kid is playing over the top of it, and that's it.
Are you the type of person, when you go to a museum, do you read a lot of the like the info sections, like the descriptors?
On and off. It sort of depends. I'm like the kind of person who I like to buy a lot of books of like postmodern American poetry, and I just kind of like flip through to like a random page and read a couple of like lines. Oh, I see. You know? Yeah. So I'm very ADD about absorbing other artistic stimulus. So it depends on the day, depends on the painting. I could spend hours in a museum and not read a word, or I could, only read words.
I think the reason I've actually was thinking about this recently. I spend a lot of time on like shitty art because I enjoy the process more than the product. So I'm the type that goes to a museum that you would hate, and I read every single descriptor. Mm-hmm. And so if I see a thing and I especially don't understand what the hell's going on, and I read the descriptor and I like try to understand the person's process, I actually appreciate that more than the product, which I think is why I stuck to making videos for so long, because I enjoyed the process and the product was kind of just and needing to move on from it.
I'm definitely a process over product person too.
Okay.
And I know what you mean about kind of reading about the process and kind of getting some satisfaction from that. But also, I always think about the fact that it's like, if I'm creating some video or something that's like sort of political or has some particular message, I don't get to write a little card and have it walk around with that in front of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's cheating. You're not allowed to do that. You have to. It should be on the page. It shouldn't be on the page next to the page. And I learned differently. I didn't go to school for art. I went to school for political science. So I make art like a political scientist, which is like bad. But
right.
There's some disconnect between me and higher art, and I know that at least some of it is just like money. You know, like I know that that's part of the border. And there's other parts that aren't. There's other things that aren't, right? There's other things I could probably work harder to understand, but I just don't, because I know that part of the reason is because I went to BU instead of going to AIB. Like, I know that's why.
Funny you say that. One of the reasons I don't really do theater anymore, that I'm not involved with it as much, because I just understand how it's so inaccessible to so many things, so many people and so many audiences, and it like really stuck my crawl. So I mean, I work at PBS now, and that's like I don't know, it's like the beacon of accessibility, because it's on every broadcast wave, and it's I do the YouTube stuff, so it's like free learning.
Yeah.
So I get that frustration there. That's where I get frustrated with like the Hamilton thing and stuff.
Like the $40,000 Hamilton tickets or whatever you mean?
That is what I mean. And I'm such a hypocrite because I've actually seen it.
Yeah. You got in early enough.
I got in early enough. I'm lucky to have a friend that lives in New York and is a huge Linaholic. And
they could work a little harder on that nickname, Linaholic.
Well, I think that was my name. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think that's the official name.
They don't self-identify as Linaholics? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Siri, take a note. I'm under the Linfluence, and I'm ready to be read my Manuel Miranda rights. Is that something? End note.
And like in March of 2015, she was like, buy these tickets. And so I bought them for August of 2015. And even then it was like a little over $100 a ticket.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I have a hard time even spending like $30 on a subpar thing in DC theater.
Yeah.
Who has a wild theater scene here. It's a really great scene here. But that's also a reason I'm like always stuck to storytelling, because the tickets are cheaper for one.
Yeah.
And you kind of get the same thing out of it I get the same thing out of it.
And it is a little, even within just the world of theater, the world of storytelling is a little more populist than the world of like big Broadway productions or
right.
like off-Broadway shows on their way to Broadway. However Hamilton started, it was like off-Broadway, then it becomes Broadway, right? So
right.
I don't know. I at least understand that's how things work.
I like the concept of I like people, like ordinary people doing like that do ordinary things, being taken out of their element and being spotlighted on, and them knowing that they matter, that their stuff matters, and that's what storytelling can do.
But I kind of like the fact that sometimes I have to be limited in my technology. You know, if I'm going to go on a camping trip or something, I'm excited and I like bring a notebook because I'm like, oh, I have to write in this.
See, I think that goes back to what we were saying about, you know, the sort of restrictions placed on things by exterior forces like studios and networks and stuff like that. That I think the restrictions that maybe the tools that you use puts on you as well. That, yeah, I think that can affect creativity, and that, like, the act of getting a notepad out and putting pen to paper, it feels like you have to like honor that, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that's you know, it's like I'm writing, do you mind? You know, it's not like you're on your phone and people can sneer at you. It's like, no, I'm literally doing some writing now.
It's going to impress somebody at a cafe. If you're doing it, it's going to. So you get that little like pride boost ahead of time because you know already. Walking in there with your pen and paper, you know someone's going to look at you and go, "Wow,
that guy's serious. Yeah. That guy's old school." You're a writing hipster.
But it's just there's just I guess that's the risk you run. But you know what though, like I have found, I was just in Portland, Maine the other day, and which is like a more of a hipster enclave than, I mean, where I used to live in Portsmouth. Now I live in Rollinsford, New Hampshire. There's mostly trees here, no hipsters. But the hipster aesthetic has moved beyond the like the shit that we did to create those stereotypes, the way that I behaved, that where that stereotype came from. And it's way more abrasive, ironic now. I saw a guy, like the world's most hipster-looking dude, walking around with a copy of Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, in Portland. And I was like, oh, this is how far it's gone.
So is Donald Trump going to win the presidency on the ironic vote? Do you think that's what's going to tip it over? There should be
I'm kidding box. Obviously, you guys just learned that. Yeah, you got to have that box.
So it seems, you know, that so many people have sort of gone, oh, I didn't mean it about the let's leave the EU vote. There's all these news reports about people just going, oh, I didn't realise it was actually going to happen. I just thought that I was, I don't know, like what, it was a protest vote or something? Like, I don't...
Yeah, I have a couple of relatives who probably are like maybe the ironic Trump vote people. And I will say, full disclosure, they're the dumber relatives. And then the smarter ones who are going to vote for Trump, though, they're like the Republicans wrapped in so many levels of guilt and denial that they don't even know what the fuck they're saying anymore. Like the most visible one is Paul Ryan in America, who is like, he's like, I don't know. Like you people constantly make me try to answer for Trump. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I think I'm going to vote for him because I can't imagine what else I would do. But I have no idea what I'm doing or thinking anymore. And that's the other. It's not just the ironic vote. Trump is going to get a lot of the like panicked confusion vote, where it's just like, I think I have to. I've been saying
we're supposed to, right?
Yeah.
He's our guy.
I've been on team right wing for so long that I don't care what the team is anymore. I just, I don't care what it represents. I'm just going to go along with it.
It's just, I think that's the thing that we're seeing over here a lot now, which is this thing of the weird sort of extreme reaction to the moderates. That it's like when, the sort of the guy that has got to be the bad guy is so moderate, the way that you combat that is by making heroes of the extremists, right? So, I mean, in your case, Obama, relatively sort of left-leaning, I suppose, liberal, and obviously of an ethnicity which is unique in American presidents, and people sort of go, okay, so how do we make him the bad guy? And it's like, well, we make out that Donald Trump's the good guy. That's we champion the exact opposite. You combat moderatism with extremism, it seems.
Yeah.
And that's what's just fucked us in this country, is that people have been conditioned to believe that we can blame everything on immigrants. The worrying thing is, where does that lead next? Because when they realise that what they voted for isn't the kind of weird right-wing utopia that they want, what's the next thing that they're going to be voting for?
And what are they going to do in their frustration in the meantime? Which is, I think, probably the same thing that could happen here with Donald Trump, because what are they even being sold as a promise? I mean, it's a little bit about immigrants. It's a little bit make America great again, which...
It's so fuzzy, though, isn't it? It's these campaigns that are built on illusion and... Not illusion, allusion.
Yeah.
Illusion,
and,
Michael.
Kind
trick
of
is something a hoard of some money.
Misapprehension and inference, just letting that hang instead of like saying specifically what you mean. Specifics in fucking politics, right-wing politics in particular at the moment, seems to be completely fucking gone. It's like, Trump, what's he about? We're going to build a wall. Build a fucking... You wait until we build this wall. It's going to be a good wall. Ooh, I know about building walls. I've seen walls. I've seen them.
There are very few politicians who can talk specifically without making it seem like they're talking down to people. I actually don't think that Obama does a bad job of it, but people always think he is. People are always like, he's arrogant, which is because they are smart enough not to say uppity, but that's what they mean. The only politician that really can do it is and he used to anyway. He's pretty old at this point, but it's Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton can talk policy to you as though he's in a bar with you and he's talking to you like, you're smart, you know what I'm talking about. And very few people can pull that trick off, but Republicans just haven't tried for a very long time. For the longest time they have just been like, Donald Trump is just the most extreme version of everything they've been saying. But the truth is, he's not that extreme. Like, almost every word that Donald Trump has said has been said by someone else in his party at some point recently. Yeah. And it's just, they didn't expect all these bad ideas to Voltron together.
Do you think, because I've seen this said, that, Donald Trump never thought it would go this far?
Yeah, no, I think he just wanted to kind of glom onto the sort of orbital force of the campaign for a while, and just drum up interest in Donald Trump. And then eventually get out somewhere and then write a book. He's apparently recently been looking into plans to start a TV channel. And I don't think that's so that he has his own state-controlled media when he's president. I think that's where he funnels the support when he loses. He can't believe it went this far. And what choice does he have now? But I don't like to think about that too much because I don't want to feel any sort of sympathy for the fucking guy. This
he's going to become president by accident.
Yeah, he never meant for this to happen, I guess. But that almost makes him more dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need this to be over.
We're fucked over here. I don't know what's happening. It's like some people think it's literally the apocalypse, and then other people are like, no, it's fine. It's an opportunity. We've left the European Union. We can sort of rebuild, and we haven't left yet. It's going to be 2 years or something. But for me, it's just that uncertainty that's the worrying thing. Is so what is going to happen? Nobody can say for sure that it's going to be fine. Nobody can say for sure that it's going to be the end of the fucking world.
Right.
But it seems like we were pretty solid, and we've kind of pulled the rug from under ourselves, and whether we can get back up or not. And
that's why I think it's worse for you guys, is because it's always seemed like we had no rug under us. It's always uncertain. It's always the end of the fucking world over here, and it seems to get worse, but I wonder if it's just because for those of us who've been around for each thing, we're increasingly more aware of it, I'm smarter now than I was when George W. Bush was running for president. If I were 28 years old when George Bush was first on the scene, would it feel exactly the same as Donald Trump does now because of everything I had learned from Ronald Reagan and everything up till that point? Would it be just as scary? Is it just the cumulative effect of having seen 4 or 5 of these boogeymen, where whatever, the bad guy in season 5 seems a lot worse than the bad guy in season 1 because there's been 4 bad guys? I don't know.
But as well, they do always have to. They have to make the bad guy worse each time. That's these things. Like I say, it's the extreme thing that it's like these things always escalate, don't they? And the more the pendulum swings to the moderate, the more the reaction swings further the other way. Whether it's going to go the way that I think what's done for us in this country is that the sort of a lot of the working class and people who are generally disenfranchised with the way things are, people who feel like they've got no control over their lives and all that sort of stuff, which we all do. Nobody has control over their lives, but then the illusion, Michael, that you can take control. We're going to take back control from the EU. We're going to get our country back and all that. It's classic. And Trump's doing the same thing. I think that it's that thing of the promise of making everything better when who can do that? And it's the same thing that Obama got in on, really. The promise of change, and we're going to give you what you want, and then nobody really gets what they want.
The hardest thing for me is the alienation that you can feel when you... I was driving up north with a friend of mine last weekend, and we were seeing these Trump signs everywhere in people's lawns, and we were just sort of trying to imagine it, To us, Donald Trump feels like such uncertainty and such chaos. To other people, Donald Trump feels like certainty and reassurance and whatever, and just that divide is so deep, and there are millions of people that feel that way, and so it's like how are we all the same species? How can I relate to people? Can I? Maybe I can't. And it's like
how can we ever reconcile these differences? Is surely that's the and that's again, that's what we've got in this country now, where it's like that the referendum was pretty much split down the middle, and 70% turnout, and the vote was 52 to 48%, and that's like what this fundamental and extreme disagreement in like right down the middle of the country. And it is the fear that comes with it is how can we ever reconcile those differences? Like, can we?
Yeah.
How do we, as half a country that is in direct opposition to the other half of the country ideologically or whatever, how can we fix that? Can we straighten that out? I don't know, man. It just seems like it's not going to be fucking easy.
Yeah. It's true. Well, maybe the half of the UK that voted to stay, and the half that votes for and the half that votes against Donald Trump, we could sort of like form our own nation, like on the Pacific Ocean garbage thing. Maybe that's what we have
Garbage
to do.
Island.
Maybe the problem is that there's so much of us that agree, but we're just geographically too dispersed. We need to form more, not just the EU. We need to form a bunch of different U's.
The union.
Well, I mean,
the universal union.
Those of us that aren't afraid of the word union need to form unions, and then the other ones need to form like gentlemen's clubs or whatever the fuck they need to tell themselves to make it feel okay. And that's what we'll have to do instead.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting few years globally, I think.
Yeah, interesting is the optimistic way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today's episode of the last podcast was kind of a bummer, right? It just felt like we had to reckon with some pretty heavy stuff. I guess that happens sometimes, but I didn't want to leave on that note. I wanted to come up with something a little more positive. And the good news is, I think I have just invented a new tongue twister. Seriously, I can see this being practiced by nerdy kids in schoolyards across America for decades to come. Okay? It's Hot Pocket Sock Puppet. Try to say that 5 times fast. Hot Pocket Sock Puppet, Hot Pocket Sock Puppet, Hot Pocket Sock Puppet. It's a winner, right? You got to share this with the nerdy kid in your life. Whatever kid you know that is most likely to become a linguistics major. Blow their minds with this. They're going to be excited to take it back to their friends. Today's episode of the last podcast featured the voices of Paul Neafcy and Leslie Datsis, as well as a clip from Never Not Funny with Jimmy Pardo. It featured music from the Pinch Hill Orchestra, our in-house organist Morgan Little, and one of my defunct high school bands, Adjectives. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.